and welcome to the Powerful African Women, the PAW podcast.
The podcast to empower the power in you.
I'm Aissatou.
And I am Sarah.
And today we're gonna discuss with our guest Maella on her success story.
And how to be promoted in your company when you are an African woman.
We'll present our guest and her choice for the topic.
We'll discuss everything, share experiences and argue our point of view.
So stay tuned
and listen.
So hello and welcome back to the Powerful African Women podcast. So we'd like to present you the new format of our podcast where we'll have a guest who is going to talk about her or his path, the challenges they have to overcome, and how will they get to become the powerful African women they are dreaming of.
Okay, so as you can see on our social media, we launched a new website. What? So that website is basically going to comprise everything that we did before. So the previous podcast that we did, the transcript that we also wrote, some new different ideas, some new different projects. Thank you. Some new different projects that we added. So it's really exciting, and we hope that you guys enjoy.
Yes, and we also launched our mentoring program. So go on our website and sign up on the link to become a mentor or a mentee and help or be helped to become a PAW.
Okay, and then the second project that we have, it's actually a scholarship. So we have a donation button on the website, and we would love if you could give anything, small, big amounts, and that will go to fund or to give scholarship to young African girls in high school, preferably, and also in college. And we'll be able to help them with, school supplies or with any type of expenses that will help them becoming the PAW, exactly, and support. So yes, please go on the website, donate, listen to the podcast, let us know what you think, as always.
Thank you. So now it's time to start the real podcast. So hello to our guest.
Hi.
So we're going to start, as always, by presenting the guest who would have to bring out the PAW in her because it's a girl today.
Yes.
So I'm going to ask you 5 identification questions and you'll have to answer to each of them. That's easy, right?
Yeah.
So, first question, what is your PAW identification? That is, how would you like us to call you throughout the entire podcast?
Maella.
Nice to meet you, Maella.
Or Maello.
Nice to meet you guys too.
Or Maello. Maella or Maello?
Either one will work.
All right. Okay. Second question, what is your PAW country? That is, what is the country you identify the most with?
Ivory Coast. Because I was born and raised there. It is and always be home to me. And United States, right? Because I've been here for 8 years now, and I'm grateful to have a life here in the awesome and matchable state of California.
Of course. Fancy, darling, fancy.
Yes. Third question, what is your PAW goal? That is, what would you like to become in the future?
I try to plan my life out as much as possible, but I never want to be super precise about anything. But as of today, I'll say that my goals are to grow within the position that I currently hold into more managerial positions. I hope to hold more leadership positions, whether at work or outside of work. Become a mentor in your mentoring program, right?
Yes.
How awesome is that?
Thank you.
I'm excited.
Yeah, right? Me too. And hopefully get an MBA in a few years.
Okay, so
Awesome.
Also, what is your current PAW academic and or career? What is your path, or are you working already today?
Yes, so my background is mechanical engineering, and I'm currently working for Chevron as a mechanical design engineer.
Wow.
Nice.
Okay, that's really nice. And last question, because PAW is also about having fun.
Right.
What are your hobbies? What do you like to do when you have free time?
Yeah. I never have free time, but my hobbies will have to be singing.
Oh.
songwriting, playing and watching soccer. I like to fly, or really anything about aviation. I like to travel,
Wow.
amusement parks, zoos, driving, and shopping.
All
Nice. Yeah,
right.
definitely driving.
Okay.
This girl drove me around a lot in LA.
Wow.
I'm very thankful for her.
Me too.
Yeah, but
Okay.
that's really amazing. Okay, so
This is
now
good.
I'm
Mm.
excited because we're gonna play a little game.
All right.
So the game is called the Fireside Chat. Okay, so
Mm.
the concept is very simple. I will just ask you some questions and then you just have to answer really quick. Don't think too much so that we can kind of, get a taste about who is Maella, basically.
All right.
Okay, so first question I would ask you, Acheke Gaba ou Futubanan?
Futubanan.
Yes.
Oh, wow,
All
actually,
day.
this is Acheke for me all day, man.
No
Okay,
way.
yeah, I love Acheke too much. Okay, second question, Le Yoruba or Serge Beno?
Serge Beno.
Okay, you really okay. Anyways, I'm not judging.
I'm sorry, stop.
I'm not judging. Okay, third question, LA ou Abidjan?
LA.
Oh.
Okay, that's surprising.
Hey.
I'm actually very
Yes.
surprised. But LA is pretty nice, so yeah, I would
Yes.
choose it too.
Yeah, for
Seriously. Okay,
sure.
so next question, mountains or the beach?
Beach.
Okay, I mean,
Hence
okay,
Ellie.
sounds good. LA, of course, has nice beaches. Yeah, it's pretty nice, so I wouldn't mind. Okay, last question. If you had to choose one vacation spot, what would it be?
Cabo.
Cabo, I know.
Wow.
Nice. I mean, nice, nice, nice. That's a good one.
Thank you very much, Maela. Now we know a little bit who you are. We can start the discussion, and first we'd like to talk about your success story because you are a successful woman already. That's
Definitely.
the feeling I kind of have from the beginning, from your presentation. So could you maybe talk a little bit about your path because you said you're actually working at Chevron, right, in
Yes.
Los Angeles? No, in
Yes.
California. Yeah, in Los Angeles,
Yeah,
right?
California. Yeah.
Okay. How did you get there?
Yeah. So I guess it's actually my time to shine for real now, right? But I was,
Yes.
I was like I said earlier, I was born and raised in Ivory Coast, and at 10 years old, I think I was like about 10 years old. I actually flew the prairies for the holidays, and then the airplane crew gave me that opportunity to actually visit the cockpit. Because I'm all about planes, and then there were like so many lights and buttons, and they all like fascinated me. Like, I guess it's just the plane's inner workings that seem so mysterious. So after that, I developed like a passion for machines, like trains, cars, planes, whatever. And that grew over time. And then in July 2012, I actually moved to California to pursue higher education. And then I was motivated by dreams of exploring complex engines, right? Because that's what I've been so passionate about. So I got here in California by the grace of God. I went to community college for about 2 years. And then during that time, through research and, discussions with my professors, I learned that there was actually a field that encompassed both machine and mechanical design and creation, and that was mechanical engineering. So I then decided to major in that. Yeah, it was like literally that simple. But then I transferred to USC and did about 2 years there as well. And I graduated in 2017. And straight out of college, I got a job to work for Schlumberger as a field engineer, which I truly enjoyed for about a year with all the craziness and challenges that came with it, right?
I can
And
imagine.
then actually about that, like few months ago, I ended up, losing my job.
Oh
And
wow.
it was hard and painful. I was like literally just crushed and hopeless. But eventually, God came through and brought, hope, happiness, like whatever you want, back into my life. And I started applying for different jobs, but I didn't really get any response for like, about 4 months. And then I was so frustrated, as you may know, and I was anxious, right? Because you don't have a job, how are you gonna take care of yourself? But
Yeah.
I learned to like fully depend on God, for whatever I need, and trust that He was gonna provide for me. And He did came true, right? And right now, after not having a job, applying to so many jobs. I mean, I'm talking like 20 job applications, right? And no response.
Oh wow.
I actually decided to take that job that I talked to you guys about at Chevron. And it is, I mean, I have to say this, but it is literally just above anything that I ever wanted to have, right? So now I'm here. That's kind of like how I got here. And now one thing that I want to say is that it may sound like everything have been nice and smooth, but it has not. I've
Yeah.
had to like
Yeah.
overcome many challenges that some of you listeners or you guys have had to go through or are currently going through. So coming to a new country that is so foreign to me was hard, right?
Yeah.
And I could not really speak English. I had no friends. Wanting to establish myself here, though I had to find a way to have a solid, way of like, blending in and make the American culture ways and standards mine fully. So I had to really step out of my comfort zone and make some new friends like Sahan.
Yes.
Okay, tell me.
I,
That's actually
uh,
the funny story, the way we met. You need to say that.
yes, right? Yeah, no, 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 for sure. And I read a lot and I watch a lot of movies in English as well as
Yeah.
hang out with a lot of native English speakers, just to try to improve my speaking and be more fluent and not be that African girl with an accent that no one
Yes.
could comprehend.
Yeah.
I also had to open up myself more and be inclusive and understanding of another culture that was so different from mine, right? I had to take I had to take some things in it and leave
Yes.
some others, because I want to remain true to myself, right? Challenges of learning in English, right? Going to school. When all my life I've been doing everything in French, that was also a challenge.
Because you're in the
Um,
French school in back in
yes,
Ivory Coast. Okay.
yes, yes, yes. And I had the challenge of being in a class of like 60 people with only two blacks, or like,
Of course.
just
Yeah.
like one person that was black, and having to perform and stand out. And I also, love to eat some good Ivorian food. So definitely the other challenge of not being able to savor the true flavors of my own country for years,
Yeah.
right? Another one was to not being able to see my loved ones for years. And I mean, just a lot of challenges that came my way, and it is hard to even tell you how I overcame
Yeah.
them. But I did by the grace of God, hard work, consistency, and courage. So I
Wow.
really, yeah, I
No,
really
that's
was stretched.
amazing. Yeah.
Really, that's amazing.
For
Yeah, I
sure,
can. No, I was going to say I can really relate to the fact that, especially for the food and then, being away from your loved ones for years,
Yeah,
that can
yeah,
definitely impact you in some ways. Like, even same with me. It's been 3 years and, and more than I haven't seen my parents. And then,
That's hard.
sometimes it gets, it gets hard. It is hard. And then
yes,
you feel
What?
sometimes. No, go ahead. Go ahead. I
No,
said
I
to.
was just gonna ask because both of you struggle with that. What was your secret? What did you do to survive that? Maybe I don't know, hang out with like found a community, or what would you recommend people doing when they are that like kind of isolated?
yeah. So for me, like I was saying earlier, Sarah was actually talking about the story of how I met her. It was literally just I was walking through school, and then I saw her, I heard her, she was speaking French, and I was like, that's gonna be my sis. Like I need to
This,
talk to her, and
it's
I
actually
just,
funny
uh-huh. No, it
because it's
really is.
like, the funny thing is, I was talking to my sister in French, right? And then I see somebody following me. And then I was like, who the heck is literally following me until the elevator? And then she like interrupted me. She's like, hey, you speak French, where are you from? I was still talking to my sister.
No response.
Literally. And then that's how it started. Like we hung out once and then we just fell for each other. Now we're sisters.
I think it's
Yeah.
really important. Like in those countries, I know in France it's pretty
Mm-hmm.
different because we have a lot of contact with back home, you know.
Yeah.
You always have a family member here, but I know for the US, even for me, you know,
Mm-hmm.
I started getting bold in the US. Like something you
For
just
sure.
said, like just starting talking to a girl because she was speaking French. I could do
Yes.
that in the US, you know. So I
Yeah.
also did that. And how I met most of the people I hang out with in USC, it was that, you know, just going
Yes.
randomly to people speaking your language or wearing a
Yes.
piece of clothes looking
For
like you,
sure.
or
Yeah.
just try. Yeah, really have to
Mm-hmm.
be bold, I think, to
Yes.
survive, and do your best
Yeah.
not to like just stay alone. You know,
No,
that's the worst
that's
thing that could happen.
yeah,
Yeah,
and
I
that's the
think you
best
also
thing to
have to
do.
be. I was gonna say, I think you also have to be humble, cause
Mm.
you know, when like back home, I think in my opinion, back home, like you only hang out or relate to the people you go to school with or you work with or whatever. But here, you really have to just be like, oh man, I'm not sure she's actually gonna respond, but I think she's cool. Like I want to go talk
Mm.
to her and like hang out with her or whatever. You sometimes have to do that or like text someone that never texts you.
Yeah.
Just like when you guys are starting the relationship, you just have to be in that vulnerable kind of weird position.
It is
Because you're the
true.
one that's in need, right? You need that
Mm-hmm.
relationship more than they do.
No, I
So I
agree.
think being humble is very important as well.
Sharon, you want to add something?
I was just gonna say that, like, I totally agree. Sometimes you just have to get out of your comfort zone, to
For sure.
benefit from, the good things in life. So,
Mm.
yeah, it's just essential if it makes sense. But continue now.
No,
Yeah.
yeah, I just had another question about that community you're talking about. To do what are like the people you hang out with? Is it mostly African, West African people that came to the US, like Saran, or is it Black American, or is it actually white people, or a diversity of people? Maybe when you were in at USC and then today.
Yeah. So actually, when I was at USC, when I was at USC, I was not really networking as much as I should have, like Saron would.
Shut
Like I
up.
Yeah.
was basically just hanging out with like people that I was taking class with, so it was very diverse, right? I mean, I didn't really get to choose who I would do a project with or who I would really hang out with or be in
Mm-hmm.
class with or whatever. So it was like people from all across the world, right?
Mm-hmm.
But now that I'm out of school, I'll say I hang out more with African Americans and African, not necessarily from West Africa,
Mm-hmm.
but just African in general. And I'll say that's just because of the places that I like to hang out at.
Yeah.
Like whatever I like to do or where I like to hang out. It's, I mean, I don't want to be, BS or
Mm-hmm.
whatever, but it's just like I enjoy to do some of the things that bring me back home, right? That reminds me
Yes.
of home. But I also need to include myself in this community that I'm in, right? Meaning in the
Mm-hmm.
US, right? So at work, it's very diverse. Like I have to work and hang out and deal with people that, come from like all different walks of
Yeah.
life, right? So it depends. It depends on like where I'm at, right? If I'm just doing some personal stuff like of school, then I get to choose who I want to hang out with, right?
Mm.
So naturally,
Mm-hmm.
I go with whoever um I tend to relate to the most. Though
Yes.
I have other, like I have white friends and I have people that don't necessarily look like me, but I'll say mostly it's Africans.
Yeah, that's those you feel
Mm-hmm.
more comfortable maybe with.
For sure. Yes.
Definitely, definitely.
So, you've already talked a bit about the challenges you faced as a
Mm-hmm.
black, a woman, and an
Yeah.
African engineer. I'd like to ask you first about one I think which is very important, and we're eventually all gonna face one day. That's sad, but
Mm-hmm.
yes, it's when you lost your job. So, how did it happen? How did you feel? What was the hardest thing?
Yeah. Um so how did it happen? Well, I lost my job because of an incident that happened at work.
Okay.
And then so after that, I left work
Was it an
and
incident that was like a discrimination against you, or something that didn't have anything to do with you?
It was. It was, but yet again, it's me speculating. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's not like it's officially that, but
Mm-hmm.
it can easily be understood as that, or you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So I
I mean,
would say
you
yes,
felt some type of way, like you felt cheated, basically.
yes, for sure.
Yes.
Yeah. And it was, and it's funny because it was, I think it was definitely related to my gender and race,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so definitely was discriminated at work, and just like and just to give like a, like kind of like a background real quick,
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
not to go into too much details, but it's basically, so I was working, like I said, as a field engineer, and one of the policy of the company was, you shouldn't be driving without a, like, while being on the phone, right?
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's the policy, and you cannot basically do against it, right?
Mm-hmm.
But when you look at somebody else that that's white, right, and that almost not almost, that made the company lose like thousands and millions of dollars because they weren't able to perform on their job, and you see that that person kept their job and you lost your job just because you were on the phone with your boss, I
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
think that, you know what I'm saying? Like, it's
Yeah.
No,
just
I
like,
get.
okay, you just, I mean, at some point, even if you don't want to say it, like, it's kind of obvious.
Yeah.
Like, like you would, any one of us, I think, will get rid of the person that made you lose so much money because they're
Yeah.
definitely incompetent, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Versus someone that, if, like, for example, if I didn't pick up the phone and didn't talk to you, I would have had, trouble, right?
Yeah.
It's not like I was just having some random
Yeah,
conversation.
you were talking with your boss, so.
For sure. So, yeah, so definitely have been there.
Mm.
So yeah, so that's kind of what happened. And as far as how I felt, well, I love my job, and I was telling that
Mm-hmm.
to Sarah all the time. Like, I loved it. It was so much fun. I was so challenged, and it was amazing. It was a good experience. I
Mm-hmm.
got to travel. I was telling you guys that I love to travel, right? So there was a lot of traveling involved with that. So it
Definitely,
was
definitely.
definitely crushing because I was not expecting that.
Mm.
And
Yeah.
the reason they gave me was just like, are you serious?
Yeah.
So for me, it was just not valid at all, and I felt like I was unjustly treated.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah. So it was not only losing my job, but I was losing my job because I am who I am, because I'm
Mm-hmm.
black
Yeah.
and I'm a female. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So that was hard, and it made
S-
things even harder.
What about like your coworkers, the friends that you made at work? Like, did you feel that you got the support you needed from them? Or like,
Yeah.
did you keep in touch? What happened with them?
Yeah, so not at all. Like, not at all. I did not feel like I got any support. Even when I was there, I did
Mm-hmm.
not feel like I got any support. I felt like they were all working against me.
Oh,
And I think
wow.
part of that, and I give the glory to God, but part of that was I was very successful. I
Yes.
didn't even do anything, but I was very successful doing my job. And it's a mostly like male environment. I mean, I'm saying
Mm-hmm.
mostly, but it's really all male.
It is all now.
So they see you come and you have no experience whatsoever. You coming in just with your degree and your brain, and you coming to work like with them, but you basically supervising their work. So like that in itself is very hard for older men, like I'm talking men that are already in their 40s, to
Mm-hmm.
to be managed by a little girl.
A
So
little
that
black
was tough.
African
For
girl.
sure, yeah.
Yeah.
So that was tough, and they were very, very, very open about it. I mean, when I say open, it's like they wouldn't tell me, "Oh, Maella, we don't want you to be here, or you
Mm-hmm.
bothering us or whatever." But everything they were doing was saying that super loudly. You know what I'm
Mm.
saying? So definitely, I felt like I wasn't getting support while I was there, and I was pushed away. Like, it was always
Yeah.
like, "Oh, the men here and the little girl over there."
Mm.
So it made even working hard, right? Because what I was doing was mostly teamwork, right?
Yeah.
So how do you
Yes.
work with people that don't want to work with you? And then when I left my job, partly And I don't want to say partly because of them, but they definitely had a say in it.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Mm.
So it was just like, okay, like now I felt like let down. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? Like I knew you didn't want to work with me, but I didn't know it was gonna go that far. I
That far,
thought you were gonna be
definitely.
able to do it like me, like support me, because we
Yeah.
have to work together, but not go over the line and be like, okay, she has to go. You know?
Wow.
So yeah, so right now I don't really talk to any of them but one person that was basically my light. I mean, that person was always there to like, um cheer me up, help me, because it was intense labor. So
It
he
could
was
be
always
very
there.
intense,
Yeah,
yeah.
for sure. So he was always there when it was tough. I'll go to him and talk to him, and he would just. I mean, the reason why I did 1 year there was partly because of him. I would have
Mm-hmm.
left long time
Yeah,
ago if he wasn't
before.
there. Yeah. So I guess what I took from this is like, you may not have everyone on your side,
Yeah.
but there'll always be that one person that's gonna be worth staying there and putting up with the fight, right?
Yeah. And if
So
you know
yeah.
that
Definitely.
this is important for also your career or something you want
Yes,
to achieve in the future, you have
for
to.
sure.
I was gonna ask, so what about harassment? Because I know that
Mm.
usually, in male like dominated workplace, that's something that could be very recurrent. So how, like, was there any cases where you felt, harassed, or
Mm.
do you think you didn't have to witness that?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I don't know that I'll call it harassed necessarily,
Mm-hmm.
but definitely there were times where I felt like my sex or me being a female had men treat me once like one way or another, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it would be like it won't because they don't want to lose their job too, right? Because
Mm-hmm.
I'm pretty sure harassment is a no in any
It's a
company.
no,
Or at least
yeah.
I would hope for that, but they will like make certain comments or they will do certain things um just because you're a female, like, hey, like whatever you're wearing today is like so beautiful, or like I love your hair, or like touch you in a weird
Mm-hmm.
way, or like when you be talking about maybe your relationship or you have a boyfriend or I don't know what, they'll be like, oh really, like making comments like this that will make you feel
Yes,
uncomfortable.
uncomfortable.
Yes, or like give you special treatment. Like for example, I know when I was working at that company we were talking about, it was it was I mean it was good for me,
Mm-hmm.
but that was definitely harassment because we'll all work together, right? I mean, like we had a team, right? And we'll all work together, and then every time I felt like, oh, we coming back from a job and I'm ready to go home, but there's always that one guy that's gonna come and ask me to go to lunch, ask me to go to his place, ask me
Yes,
to go out and whatnot, and I'm just like, like this, we're not supposed to be doing this.
Mm.
And if you ask me one time and I say no, it's a no.
Yeah.
Like you shouldn't be
exactly.
coming
It's a
back and like
no.
Yeah,
asking
it's
me the same
important.
thing over and over again.
But some
Because
people don't
then,
back up. They don't back up.
yes, yes, and so then it becomes harassment.
Mm.
So I think for me, the way I handled it, because I think whenever you talk about a challenge, you also have to talk about how you overcame it, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So for me, the way I kind of dealt with it is just ignore it. You know what I'm saying? Like I know
Mm-hmm.
it's really hard unless it gets to the point where it's like physical harassment.
Mm-hmm.
I feel
Mm-hmm.
like we can always choose to like overlook things. So whatever they say, just like, okay, take it in a funny way, just laugh about it. Just be super
Exactly.
minimal. You don't have
Mm.
to you don't have to justify why you feeling one way or another. I don't want to go to lunch with you. I don't want to go with lunch with to lunch with you.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You just
Yeah.
have to be firm, and sometimes when they keep coming back, you just have to be patient and consistent. It's not like, oh, you've asked me 10 times, so now I'm going to say yes.
Yeah.
It's
Exactly.
like,
Yeah.
Mm.
if it doesn't have to do with our job, and I do not see why it will go past that, then I will only take it as far as I can take it. And if it gets to a point where, well, I can't deal with it no more, then I'm a very super honest person. I think Sarah knows this. So I'll just tell you straight up, like, hey, like, this that's happening is making me feel uncomfortable. We
Uncomfortable.
still have to work together. So let's make this workable. I don't want
Mm.
to go to lunch. If you want, we can go to lunch with the other guys or the other people in the crew. It's not gonna be just us.
Yeah.
But if you want it so bad, then we'll compromise. We'll do that. So you get to talk to me. We get to spend time together. So there's, because you also need the job, right? So,
Yeah.
or whatever situation you're in. So you don't want to be like, oh, get off me or like get away from me, especially. And that gets even harder when it's upper management. When it's someone has a say in you staying here or not. So you want to be super wise and like very gentle about it. And like I think that varies from person to person, right? But I think it's important to be able to accept certain things, like push your boundaries a little bit sometimes, so that you're not frustrating anybody, you're not hurting anybody. But when it gets to a point where you just can't do it, you just can't have it continue, then you'll have to step up and say your truth.
That's really important. Okay.
Yes.
Okay, so that was really interesting. I'd like to ask a question, Maella, is when you lost your job, your family was back in Ivory Coast, you didn't have, like, how did you survive financially, but also morally? Is there a time where you're like, okay, maybe I should go back home?
Yeah, so definitely, I think there were several things that kept me here. But the first thing would be that well, I've already have a life here, right? I've already been established here. I went to school here, and I'm also very aware of the situation in my country, which is the only place that I could go back to, right? So it was not an option for me to quit, because I consider that as quitting, right? So it was not an option for me to quit and go back home, because I was already here, and so I had to find a way to stay here and get another job, because there was no way I was going to get a better situation back home, or at least not today. But also the second thing was I have friends here, right? I have friends, even though I don't have, like a lot of family or extended family. I have friends here. So I wanted to stay here for them and with them. They were also my support system, right? So I did not, even if I was like, oh my God, like, when am I going to get out of this or whatever, it was never to a point where I was just like, okay, I'm not going to do this anymore. I'm going to just bail out and go back home or whatever, because I had a family here. And the other thing was my faith, right? I had faith that it was going to get better, and that God was going to see me through. So I'll say these three things just kept me going in this fight. And oh no, I have a fourth thing: knowing what I'm worth, right? Because I knew, and we were talking about it before, that I did not lose my job because I was incompetent. I did not lose my job because I was clueless or didn't know how to do my job right. So I knew I was gonna get a better job. I was gonna get back on my feet, right? Now, as far as the financial and also just being here, I'm very fortunate because I have my immediate family here. Like, I have my mom and my brothers. So, so I definitely had a home to come back to, because for work I was in Louisiana. So I had my family, so I came back home, and I had saved up enough to carry me through the months to carry me through the months that I was out of job, right? And I'm not someone that's like fast leaving, right? I'm not. I'm always home compared to Saran. No,
First of all, I don't know why I'm always in the center of your nonsense.
No, okay. But I'm just saying. But you also have to be wise, right? You don't have a job,
Definitely.
so you have to make some adjustments. But yeah, while working, my mom has always told me, and that's a good advice for all of us, right? You need to save, because you don't know what tomorrow is gonna bring, right?
Yeah, you never
So
know.
you have a lot of money today, or at least money's coming in today. So save up, because so that tomorrow you don't have to go knocking at doors asking for money. For your rent or whatever, So that was basically my main thing. Saving, and I use my savings. And that's kind of like how I was able to survive. Yeah. Yeah.
I have two last short questions. What do you wish you had known before starting working? And the second question is, what would you have done differently?
So you said before starting working, like working in
Yes.
general, like after school.
Yeah, I mean, what you wish you had known, like getting
Yeah,
into that first company. Maybe if you had known stuff, you could have done
yeah,
stuff differently, or maybe succeed more, or
yeah.
yeah.
Um. So I'll say the fact that I was black.
Mm-hmm.
The fact
Mm-hmm.
that I was black, and it. I mean, like I knew I was black. You know what I'm saying? Like I knew I was black, but I'm saying the like just knowing and being aware that the fact that I'm black can have like a great impact on
Mm-hmm.
my life and my career. Like it's
Yeah.
real. Before I'll hear about it, people say, "Oh yeah, like yeah, I'm black, blah blah blah." But at school, I did not really feel like me being black was like, I mean, like a major deal. I was getting my
Mm.
work done, getting my A's or B's or C's, like at least, getting my work done and getting through college. I didn't
Yeah.
feel
Mm-hmm.
like it was impacting me as much as now.
Yeah.
So yeah, definitely being more aware of who you are, your
Mm-hmm.
culture, your
And you as an
women
asset,
versus.
right?
Yes, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm.
So being aware of that, being more confident, meaning like,
Mm-hmm.
yes, I'm coming into a job that I mean, I have probably no clue about, an industry
Mm-hmm.
that I'm not really familiar with, but know that if you made it through college and you are here today, is because you have potential. You
Yes.
have
Yep.
potential to do whatever it is that you're going to do, and it's gonna come with time.
And
Time
don't
is
let
gonna.
anyone tell you that you're not worth it.
For
Definitely
sure.
not.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
So yeah,
And
be more
especially
confident.
again,
Mm-hmm.
you have to emphasize the fact that, you are, even now, you're still in a very male dominated workforce, right? So you
For
have
sure.
to also emphasize the fact that even if you're a woman, you know what you're doing. So
Yeah.
you're not
Yes.
less competent because of your gender,
Yeah.
For sure.
you know?
Yeah. Uh-huh. Yes, yes. Be the other thing would be to be more curious.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, for different like I was not. I say I wish I was more curious, cause well now I am, right, because of all the learning lessons I've had, right. But starting off, I feel like you have to be curious because for me, whenever I'll experience different situations, for example, a situation that may be related to like my gender or my race or whatever. I'm not the type to like overlook things, like I would
Mm-hmm.
just be like, oh yeah, that's fine. I mean, like not really be like, oh, why did that happen? Or why
Mm-hmm.
did this person say this
Yeah.
one thing?
Yeah.
Why
Agreed.
are we doing this? Why is this
Yes.
person treating me like that? Right? I feel like if I had done that, there
Yes.
is a lot of things that I would have been able to avoid.
Maybe I would even say be less naive when it
For
comes to
sure.
race and your gender. You really have to
Yes.
know it doesn't mean that we have to tackle it as soon as we heard it because
Mm-hmm.
like we're in danger anyway. But
Yes.
be aware and don't be naive when things happen, being like, oh, it's
Yep.
just how things are. No. Think about
Yes.
the fact that you're black, you're a woman,
For
and
sure.
yeah,
Yes.
Yep.
that's really, really
Yes. Yes.
important.
Yes. Yeah. So
So
yeah.
yeah,
Sorry, and you said what would I have done differently,
differently,
right?
yeah.
Yes.
Because now you got
So
a job
yeah.
you love, right?
Yes,
So yeah.
yes, 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 totally. So definitely, I'll say what I would have done differently was to be more assertive. So
Yep.
it's
Okay.
like, because when it got to the point where, because I was telling you guys I was not very confident.
Mm-hmm.
So the fact if you're not very confident, um i I had that tendency sometimes of just taking in whatever the more experienced would tell me to do. So it was
Mm-hmm.
like, okay, yeah, you clueless, you don't know much, so he's probably right. You know what
Yeah.
I'm saying? So even though I believed and I was confident within myself that
Mm-hmm.
whatever I was thinking or whatever was what it was supposed to be, I would not say it, I would not voice it because of that, the fact that I was not confident. So I would say definitely be more assertive
Mm-hmm.
and be even more open to learning, even with the person that are not necessarily open. So what I'm trying to say is like, of course, when you go into a job, you want to make sure, or into anything, you
Mm-hmm.
want to make sure that you are always open and humble enough to learn from anyone and anybody. And I'm
Yeah.
thinking even the intern that's coming in and you have like 5 years, you can learn from
Yeah.
them.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
So for me, when I'll see that you're not necessarily willing to teach me anything, I'll be like, okay, I'm out. Like, I'm not
Yeah.
even going to try to get anything from you, you know? So
Yeah.
I wish I did more of that. Like, I did more of, like, I know you're great. I know I can get so much, like, information from you. I can get so much experience from being by your side, you know?
Mm-hmm.
But even if you're not necessarily welcoming or you're not necessarily nice to me, hey, you're here to help me. For example, if it's your mentor or I don't know who, you're here to help me. So I'm going to ask you whatever questions I have to ask you
I need to ask
just
you,
for the
yeah.
sake of I need it more than you do. So don't be like, oh my God, I'm going to shy away. I'm not going to like ask the questions to the
Because,
people
yeah.
that don't want to. Yeah, you know?
Yeah.
So like definitely be bold, like you were saying earlier. Like be bold. No matter what obstacle is standing in front of you, go. It's your career that's in the line. If you don't ask that question and you don't get the answer to that question from the person that knows it the most, you're the one that's screwed. It's not them. So because they're not smiling at you or not like necessarily coming to you to help you or I don't know what, it doesn't mean you shouldn't go and ask for what you need. So yeah. So I
All
wish I did
right.
more of that. Yeah.
I love this like ending.
I know. That was
ending
amazing.
yes kind of sentence. I really like it. Thank you very much. So
You're welcome.
that was her her success story. Maybe we're gonna talk a little bit about the topic you chose to talk about today. So
Yep.
you chose a little topic you would like to share with the network. So can you explain it and give your opinion on it?
Yes. So, it was actually hard to pick just one topic to discuss here today with you guys, but I literally made my mind up just before we started recording this. But I decided to talk about something that I believe is important to all of us, whether women or men, in our careers, and that is promotion. So from my experience, you always have to work harder or do more to get promoted, especially to upper management. You know what I'm saying? Because like in the first stage of your career, let's say the first like 5 years, you may just move up because well you've already done those things. So they're gonna try to move you up so you can learn other things, right? And be more specialized in various things. But when it gets to like upper management, like lead position or management positions or vice president or like CEO, whatever those positions, when you black and you're a like you're a woman, it's hard. You always
Yeah.
have to like go the extra mile. So
Yeah.
you'll be tested more than others. You'll have to prove yourself over and over and over and over again so that you can convince people to pick you or trust you over someone else that they're willing to go for just because of their unconscious bias or sense of similarity or belonging, like we were saying earlier, like I would definitely want to give a job to Saran over someone else just because she's black, she's a woman, I may know her, whatever, I relate to her in some way, right? So it is always like super intriguing how easy it is to not be relatable as a black African woman, right?
Yes.
So you sometimes depending on where you are, it depends on where you are or where you work, but sometimes you go unnoticed. And by notice, I mean like not just in your work. By work, I mean like your performance, like your duties, but just like it's like you're not even in the room.
Yeah.
Like people would just pass by you, not say hi,
No,
not
I
smile,
agree
not say hi back or
completely.
whatever. So
Yeah.
you feel unheard or like your opinion is not even welcomed. Sometimes it's even worse because it may be that your performance is denigrated or overlooked or completely blackened. You know what I'm saying?
Agreed. Yeah.
So the last thing I want to mention is I feel like somewhere we always think more or overanalyze everything. Like I'll think like, oh, my kinky hair is looking crazy or super puffy today, or like no makeup, or like I'm not smart enough, or what I'm thinking is not good enough, or like, or me being
I agree.
who,
There is this
like
kind
me.
of phenomenon with the black girl that or
Yes.
the black people is that you always feel like when you in the company you're in, it's by kind of luck. You're lucky to be here.
Yeah.
So you have no right to talk too loud, be too assertive, be too much.
Sure.
Because just thank God for being here. You know what I mean? Which is not a good feeling we should have.
For
Yeah.
sure, yeah. And
Mm.
like one time like for example, that one time I was debating whether I should bring my fufu with gumbo at work for lunch. You know what I'm saying? Like, I mean, it's those things that only us can, relate
Yeah.
to.
You can
Yeah.
relate to
And you know
definitely.
what I'm saying? And I
Yeah.
think one other thing is like we will sometimes think that, oh, we're not independent or strong enough. Like the
Mm-hmm.
latter, the one that I just said, is especially true for us Africans or internationals, because when we come overseas, most of us for years still rely on our parents or
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
family for provision, guidance, support, and many other things, that
Mm-hmm.
other people don't necessarily have to deal with. So you have to take that into account. And especially when they're promoting you, some people may be like, oh my god, like she still live at her parents' house, or
Mm.
she still depend on her parents for that or that or that, and so therefore she's not a leader, or like she's not
Mm.
good enough to be in that position, or she's not married, she doesn't have kids or whatever, like it's always like super
There's always a reason. They
that
will always be
exactly.
able to find a reason to make you feel like you're to undermine you. Just that.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I have a story that I wanted to tell, just to, so one of my friend actually, she went to, like, so she was working, right? And then she
Mm-hmm.
went to that meeting. So she's black, and she's also African. So she went to a meeting, and her name is Dani.
Okay.
And then so she went to the meeting, and someone, she was the only one in the room before everyone else got there. But so everyone started coming right while she was there. And then there is that one dude that came in, and he was like, hey, hi, nice to meet you, what's your name? And so she gave her name, whatever. And he was like, oh yeah, like you must be the meeting attendant. It's like, whatever, the
Oh
person that's
my
gonna just
God.
take the person that's just gonna take the meeting notes. And
Yeah.
she was like, why are you thinking I'm that? Like, I'm
Mm.
literally like a legit engineer. Like, you know
Yeah.
what I'm saying? Like, I'm not just some random person that has to be here to take meeting notes, or just for
Yep.
you all to make sure that you all are not like eating each other up, or I don't know what. Like, I'm literally here because I deserve to be here, because I'm smart, So it's those kind of things that that I feel will always kind of go through
Yeah.
as black African women.
Mm-hmm.
No, but
And
that's very
yeah.
true. Even like going back to the fact that, Aisatu, she talked about how people make you feel lucky because,
Mm-hmm.
you're black, and then I mean, like they make you feel lucky that you're here because of your gender, because of your race. It happens even in school, especially in, like like I mean,
Mhm.
like predominantly white schools, like in the
Mhm.
US. Maybe USC, that's what happened. Like I had very interesting comments about people asking me, oh, are you on a scholarship? Are you like on a sports scholarship? Because most
Mhm.
of the black people who are there, they're usually in a sports. So if they're not in a sport, they shouldn't be,
Here.
admitted. So those are the type of comments that, like, at the end of the day, you
Yeah.
just like,
I
so
mean, for me to survive those kind of comments, you just need to be sure what you're worth.
Mhm.
no, definitely, and that's the thing,
Yeah.
right? Like for me, most of the time, whenever I say, "Oh, I'm an engineer," they're like, "Oh, wow, actually, that's amazing. You don't look like one,"
Mm.
because there is a
Yeah.
specific look for it.
Yeah.
So
You're
those
not
are
I
that.
again,
swear.
That's so glad
right?
to hear.
Yeah, it's very
Yeah.
interesting sometimes the way people they don't think twice before speaking, but
Yeah.
point is, yeah, it's just the way that you go by it, and then like both of you guys said, you know your worth, and yeah, you
Mm-hmm.
don't listen much to what they have to say.
I really like what you all say because it's kind of start putting us on the wrap up. What is that is the recommendation and advice you would like to give to the PAW network. So
Yeah.
we've already started. Do you have something you'd like to add
Can
quickly?
I ask a question
Yes, but
for
answer quickly.
Maela? It's actually a few questions, right? But I would say, what I would ask. So, like, what one characteristic you think as women, or like as African women, we need to have, in order to, like survive in a workplace, or like just survive in, just survive, if it makes sense.
Yeah. 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 I'll say, since you said the one characteristic, I will have to say being strong,
Mm-hmm.
like mentally, is very important. Like you just have to be like super strong. Cause if
Mm-hmm.
your mental is giving in, you done. I mean, you may be going to
Oh,
work and do whatever you want to do, but you're not gonna be like 100%, right? Because
yeah.
your mental has to be in the right place for everything else to follow. So and I think that's also one thing that's in our advantage, because I think growing, like being Africans, right, that's something that our mothers or fathers would teach us, right? They'll be like, okay, no, you want to be strong, you want to be courageous, because life is not, it's not gonna be easy, like for us as Africans, let alone for us as women. So you just have to, yeah, you just have to be like mentally
Yeah,
strong
you do.
and
Okay.
courageous.
Definitely. Another last thing is we kind of want to tie up a little bit, to like the African continent, since that's kind of the whole
Yep.
idea here. So what would you, that's a little bit off topic, but still, what would you think, you want to see be implemented in the continent, especially for to empower, young African leaders like us, or like future leaders, still in the making.
The the opportunity to come and do whatever has to be done. So I
Yep.
feel like right now there is not a lot of opportunity, as in like the country that we are from actually wanting us that bad to come back and do something, you know? I feel like it's more okay, like you left, you're doing your own thing, whatever, and there is not a lot of effort that's being done to bring the brain and the power and the experience back home. So it's kind of like we go out and we are in whatever country and we just staying there, and we don't necessarily feel compelled to come back. So I'll say,
Mm-hmm.
if they can, put together, I don't know if it's an organization or an institution that's gonna like keep track of like who goes where, who does what, whatever, how can we use those talents out there to help us in whatever challenges that we are going through right now. Because I
Yep.
think a lot of us would want to go back, but there is no positions, there is
Yes.
no opportunity, there is no space for us to actually go. So we have to create the space. We have to create our own thing before we go back and make an impact. So I
Yes.
think if African countries and governments can start thinking about this, like actually putting something together and having a position, and like position or whatever work they have for us, then I think that would definitely encourage us to go there more, you know. So that would
Yeah.
be my recommendation,
Yep.
or
Thank
what I'm thinking right
Thank
you.
now.
you.
I actually
Yeah.
liked it a lot. I'm taking notes because I feel like sometimes, people who are listening, they might be looking for ideas, for
For
Yes.
businesses and
sure.
stuff, or like
Yeah.
entrepreneurship, anything. So it's just good to give suggestions. You never know what could
Yes.
be
Yes, I
coming out of
agree.
it.
Thank you. I think we're good, right, with the discussion.
Yeah.
Thank you very much, Maella.
You're
That
welcome.
was really interesting. I've learned a lot. I'm prepared
Uh-huh.
also in work, like I've just started
Mhm.
working a few months ago, so now
Yeah.
I'll be twice as bold.
I think we
Yep.
all we all gonna get something out of this and be
Yeah,
better.
that's the goal actually.
Yes.
We're gonna do something we always do on our episode, that is like a recommendation section. So I'm gonna start. My recommendation are more for French, our French listeners, or those who understand French. Really important. The first one is a podcast. It's called Le Chip. That is a podcast. We don't have that, I mean, in France, because you don't have a podcast on Black culture. So this podcast is about that. So it's more about what happened in the Black culture community, either in the US or in Africa or in France or in the Caribbean, because some of the hosts are from the Caribbean. It's really interesting. If you want to have fun, laugh a lot, because they're really funny. They will talk about the Prince of Bel-Air, but also about Maîtresse d'un homme marié. So just listen. It's on all the platforms. And the second recommendation is the Natural Hair Academy. That's gathering of you have like hair product brands like As I Am or Shea Moisture or Terracare that comes, and many more like brands, all oriented around the black hair. It's really interesting because they give you tips on how to take care of your hair. They would also do some diagnosis, like telling you if your hair is well managed or not, and all of that. And it will happen in Paris on June the 6th and June the 7th. The tickets
Nice.
are already all available, and if you're in Paris, just grab the opportunity to go there. I was there last year. It was really nice. And they also, very important, have African food truck, and one of them does a poulet braisé that is so good with acheke and
Oh my
banana
gosh.
and aloko.
Thank
I
you
was
for us who are so
just
homesick. Thank
that's
you.
really I'm just sharing that with you, but yeah, if you have the chance, just go there.
Sounds good. Thank you so much
You're
for your
welcome.
recommendation. I have one too.
Yes.
So, since Maela talked about, the importance of saving, which, that's something I'm struggling with every day, but I'm trying my best to manage.
Same
So,
here.
no, seriously though, the struggle. So,
Yeah.
like I received this gift like by one of my mentors, and it's a book. It's called The Total Money Makeover by Dave Ramsey. And
Okay.
that book again, it just talks about, how people, first of all, they were in debt, like 30,000, 40,000, $50,000 debt. And then they were able to, change their whole money management in order to,
Wow.
be fully out of debt, owning
Mm-hmm.
properties and just living the life that they should be living, especially here
Yeah.
with the American system. Sometimes like you can be in debt forever if you're not
Yes.
careful,
Yeah.
right? So yeah, I think it's a good book. I'm reading it right
I'm
now.
definitely gonna read it,
Yeah,
Sarah.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you for the recall.
you're welcome.
And last but
Uh,
not least.
all right. Yeah. I if you guys will allow me, I just have a few more comments. I mean,
Yes,
it's just
sure.
real
Yes.
quick.
Sorry.
But yeah, I just wanted to. I mean, especially, I mean, you are starting your job just newly, and I know Saron is pretty new as well, and me too, actually. So I just wanted to say to all the African women out there that you should be you at all time. There is so much like power, light, strength, and wisdom in you that you can
Mm-hmm.
power the world forward with your uniqueness and creativity. You just have to be you and not let anyone or anything drive you into someone you're not, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And I think working hard, we were talking about it, but also diligently and consistently, because most of the time we hear, oh, work hard, but you also have to be diligent and also consistent. Because if like if you're just working hard and you're not, like, it's not over a certain period and you're doing it
Yep.
consistently, then it's not really gonna bring about the fruits that you wanted to bring, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
So I think also be aware that you are black, right? We talked about this. Stay focused and don't get distracted. That is very important. And I think even going through college or at work, you got to know your goals and stick to what you have to do to get where you're trying to get. So that comes in with discipline as well, right? So you want to, for me also, just that was also a challenge. You got to learn how to say no, or rather not now, right? Because sometimes that
Mm-hmm.
can be challenging. And acknowledge and embrace your weaknesses and flaws. We all have weaknesses, we all have flaws, but this particular one is very dear to my heart because I have so many of those. But I never was able to succeed by fighting my intrinsic flaws and weaknesses.
Mm-hmm.
But when I started embracing and accepting them and focusing on doing all that I can to perfect my talents or gifts
Yeah.
and improve those weaknesses, that's when I started to see success, or like that's when my success story started to like be written, right? Because I'm still on the writing, right? I'm still working on it, but yeah. So that's what I wanted to say. And as far as the recommendation, I'll say I have two movies.
Yes.
So one of them is War Room, and the other one is Overcomer. And
Mm-hmm.
both movies blessed me so much last year in so many different ways. And I hope that you can check those out and get something from them as well. And I think they can be found like on Netflix or Amazon Prime Video, which is where I was able to get them. And yeah, thanks you guys again for the invite and this amazing time spent with you guys.
To be honest, I don't know how we can top this conclusion. I think she said just
Yes.
everything.
She said everything.
She killed it, seriously. So right now I'm like, we should just, I don't know, like we should just finish this podcast. Right? Mic drop, like you said, you know, I'm speechless. Yeah. Like she did it.
Thank you, Maella. That was really interesting. You are our first success story guest, and this episode we've learned so much, and I'm sure we're gonna learn much more.
Definitely.
Thank you guys so much.
Thank you. I would also like to thank our listeners and tell them to follow us on social media. We are on Facebook, Instagram. We are also now, we have a website now also, so you just have to type Powerful African Women on your phone or on your computer to reach out to us.
So please do it now, always. Powerful African Woman. And for Twitter, it's Power Woman in one word. So go check them out. Remember the website. Go check it out.
And sign up for the mentorship program. That's really interesting.
I was going to say, sign up to be my mentee.
Yeah, and we also would love to have your opinion and your suggestion or your comments.
And don't forget to bring out the power in you.